a lot of the conversation you had been mentioning, both of you had been mentioning, is in regards to the universal basic income or guaranteed income, whatever you want to call it. Um, to my knowledge, the only country in the world to have that is Iran, and that's paid for through subsidies and sales through oil and gas that they're able to sell. Um, is have either of you potentially looked at other potential solutions such as economic activity and opportunity in some of these communities rather than kind of a direct payment?
Yeah, I can start with that. It's actually it's become a misnomer, right? That that economic development actually leads to liberation. It actually doesn't. What makes the biggest difference in mobilizing and creating lasting or systemic change for people and women generally is political mobilization. And that's the catalyst which social change draws from in communities, especially with Indigenous communities, right? So making small investments, teaching someone how to fish kind of examples, those don't actually address any of the systemic issues that create multiple barriers that make people have to, work or be self-reliant, right? We're talking about broad systemic changes and making space for women, their decision making, their leadership, their governance. That is what actually creates lasting social change and lasting and creates safety for people, right? That's what, if you're trying to advance that. But it can't just be limited to socioeconomic investments. It has to go much beyond that, right? Because otherwise, it's just solving, a small problem, perhaps with one family, however many people that you can get into a program, small service numbers, or, one worker that's limited to so many clients. Without kind of broader systemic changes, that we're not actually going to be able to meet many people's needs. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to talk about lifting and supporting all people, which is why something like, guaranteed minimum incomes, that kind of thing, providing a safety net is really important because we have to have a society. We're a very wealthy country where we believe in the value of every person and that every person is valuable. Every person deserves dignity regardless of their circumstances.
But wouldn't that ensure that ensuring the maximum opportunity for all, would that not help?
Well, because you can't just look at it within, like, from today moving forward. It has to be contextualized historically, right? So if you look at, I'll give you another example from my territory, right? Uh, we had funds as a nation, investments, Indian trust dollars, which is, Yellowhead Report cashback, where our community had around $12 million in 1840. And the federal government redirected that fund into a trust for us. And there were trustees that were appointed by the Crown who misspent about 40% of that trust fund. And by the early 1900s, almost that entire trust fund was depleted to do things like build Osgood Hall or build Toronto City Hall or build bridges and infrastructure. And it didn't actually go to our community for our investment and our prosperity. It was exploited from the Crown. So we have many generations of people who were not able to have control over their financial resources, who now exist in a state of chronic poverty because Canada used our money to build infrastructure that serves the settler population and doesn't benefit the Indigenous population. And so now we have people who are experiencing poverty who have not been able to participate in the economy, and were never able to get the economic prosperity that comes from all of the wealth that was generated over the past year in the industrial era.
Well, I get
So
no, I
like
get
that's why we need to move forward with
I
like
get that,
thinking
but
about that.
I get that government is the problem, right? Like I believe the Ottawa Knows Best is causing a lot of these problems.